to the Victorious Living Solutions podcast. I'm your host, Nikeya Young, and today is the conclusion of our fantastic season where we've been talking about surviving toxic relationships. And today's episode, we're entitling it Fighting for Your Life. Fighting for Your Life. We're going to be talking about the effects of toxic relationships on your mental health, physical health, emotional well-being, even spiritually. We're talking about all those things today, so let's get into it. Why is it so important, Nikeya? Why did you devote an entire season to surviving toxic relationships? Glad you asked. So if you don't get rid of these toxic relationships, you guys, there's a lot at stake. Your very life could be at risk. Not could be, is. I've done a lot of research on this topic over the years. Mental health and well-being is a true passion of mine. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I'm a certified master life coach. I'm a licensed minister. This is what I feel is my life's work, is to make sure that people live victoriously. And one of the biggest things that derails people and makes it so that people are not living victoriously or living their purpose-driven life that God intended for them to live is toxic relationships. And why is that? Well, the key word in relationship is ship. Relationships are designed to take you somewhere. They're either going to take you to a good destination or they're going to take you miles and 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 miles off course. And the longer you sit in a toxic relationship, the longer it's going to take you to course correct, to get back on the path that God intended for you to walk on. It's not impossible for you to course correct. It's just going to take longer. So the sooner you do this, the better. But in the case of physical ailments, you may not have the chance to course correct, because through these toxic relationships, these could be the very instrument that Satan uses to take you out of the game. When I was doing my research for this episode, here are some of the biggest things or biggest ways that toxic relationships can affect your physical body. Y'all ready? Okay. The first thing that came up was cancer, then heart disease, stroke, anxiety, depression, suicide, autoimmune disorders. Autoimmune, where your immune system is so confused. Why is your immune system confused? Because your body is in constant fight or flight mode. Your immune system, all of your nerves, you're just on edge, walking on eggshells around these toxic people. And that is actually damaging your immune system. You may find yourself more prone to getting sick. You may find yourself having lupus or any other kind of autoimmune disorder because of the resentment you're holding in your heart, maybe the unforgiveness you're holding in your heart towards the other person, or just holding back your true self, the constant war going on within you because you know that this isn't the life that you're supposed to live, but you feel helpless and hopeless to be able to get out of it and course correct. That wears on you physically, not just physically, but mentally as well. So we're not just talking about, you need to set your boundaries and get rid of toxic relationships. That's not something that's like, it's good if you do this. It's a good idea. That's something that you better do this, because it could literally be the end of you if you don't. A lot of people realize this during the Great Resignation, which we're still in, by the way, that happened during the pandemic, because being at home forced them to be out of the situation being their toxic work environments, long enough to see how it was impacting them. They were so busy just in the hustle and bustle and go, 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 go. I got to work. I got to pay this bill. I got to do this. I got to do that, that they hadn't even taken the time to sit back and reflect. And then when they had that opportunity, it was like, whoa, no amount of money is worth the kind of stress that this job has been causing me. Just the notion that my boss is saying it's going to be time to come back to the office soon has me crying, anxious, like I'm dreading going back to this place in a way that I wasn't even aware of. This is the kind of internal conversations a lot of you were having. Yes? And so a lot of you made the decision, I'm worth better than this. And you put feet to action and you got out of there. So a lot of employers are having to course correct in terms of not treating their employees like objects that hold no value. You know, they're having to do that because they're losing a lot of people. People are not putting up with your crap anymore, arrogant jerk bosses. Okay, people are like, we are tired of you. You're going to be in this office by yourself and see how your company runs then. Another thing we can talk about is some of the mental effects. So we talked about physical, literal diseases. High blood pressure is another one. High cholesterol. All of these things can happen as a result of you staying in toxic relationships. The mental effects are, I mentioned anxiety and depression, but you can literally, narcissism especially, you stick around a narcissist long enough and baby, you will look up one day and you'll be a whole narcissist yourself. Really and truly. I've seen it happen. I've seen people who didn't have a narcissistic bone in their body end up mirroring another narcissist. Because the Bible even says, do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good manners. And that is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So you want to watch out for that. But also another thing, spiritually, what is the aspect that, or the effects of spiritual, if I could talk, the spiritual effects of hanging around toxic relationships are your purpose. That's the biggest thing that's at stake. Also, your relationship with God can be directly impacted because, especially when you're dealing with toxic parents, we tend to subconsciously view God as being like our earthly parents. Now, this is subconscious. We don't mean to do it. But if we had a father who wasn't there or wasn't providing or anything of that nature, or whoever our caregiver was, be it father or mother, it's hard to imagine God being a loving God who's always there, who whatever you have need of, God is providing it. God cares about what you care about. The Lord is perfecting that which concerns you. If your real parents didn't do those things for you, it makes it harder to walk in the faith that a God that you've never seen is going to do something that your parents, who you physically see all the time, have not done. So that's one way it can affect you spiritually. Another way is when you have toxic relationships, you have trust issues. And so you've had to build up walls as a means of survival. But the problem with those walls is it not only keeps the toxic person out, it keeps good people who actually mean you well from being able to get in. They got to go through Fort Knox and all these bars and walls of security to be able to impact your life in a positive way, right? That can even withhold good relationships from you romantically, especially if the toxic relationships or the people who hurt you were males or men. If you have toxic relationships with your mom or sisters or other females in your life, you could have a whole toxic view of women. And then when the right woman comes along, you will dog her out because in the back of your subconscious, you're like, all women are crazy and no good anyway, and she's no different. So let me get her before she gets me. I've seen that happen too. Don't make other people who have done nothing to you pay for toxic people, right? Don't do that. This is why it's important to not only get out of those relationships, that's just the first step, but to do the inner work to heal from the trauma that has been inflicted on you physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually from these people. Okay. And we've had all our experts give you some great tips on how to do that. If anything, if you take nothing else away from this series, I want you guys to find you a therapist and make an appointment. Okay? Now, life coaching is great. I'm a life coach. I even have a mental health portion of my life coaching that I do. But for some of you who have deep-seated trauma, you're going to need some deep-sea diving level work. And that's what therapists do. Coaching is, I want to say surface level for lack of a better way of explaining it. But we're just coming along to help you with goals. And we're not trying to convince you that you need our help. If you come to a life coach, you are ready and willing to work. And we're not having to dig and dig and dig through 500 layers to get you to do the action plan that we come up with for you. Okay? So if you want to get through and get healed, break free from these generational curses, because that's another thing that's at stake, get you an appointment with a therapist. Okay? So I mentioned generational curses. When you haven't healed, your children will inherit the same traumas that you have, because you will operate in a way that's not your full authentic self, that's not your best self, and it will impact how you show up in every single area of your life. There's no way you can have had narcissistic parents, not heal from that, and then be an effective, loving parent that doesn't pass any of that residue on to your kids. It just doesn't work that way. You will do it whether you intend to or not. It will be on autopilot, because there's certain things and certain behaviors and ways of survival that you had to do just to coexist in the household with these toxic people. And those behaviors took years and years to learn. So they're going to take some time to unlearn as well. Be willing to do the work. This is not a one and done. Oh, I read a book on it. Yay, I'm fine. This is going to be a process. It could be years later where you think you're over it, and somebody could do something else toxic to you that is what we call a trigger that could bring those memories back up for you. And you'll have to repeat some of those same exercises that your therapist or coach showed you to deprogram all of the lies and garbage that you learned from the toxic relationships and go, nope, I reject that. Devil, you are a lie. That is not who I am. That is not who God says I am. Just like forgiveness is not a one and done, neither is the inner work that you're going to have to do to heal from these toxic relationships. And you're going to have to pass these strategies on to your children. Okay? A lot of us are in therapy today because of the therapy sessions that our parents and grandparents didn't get. Okay? So think about that. Think about those of us who are Gen Xers and millennials and stuff. Just think about some of the crazy stuff that we've endured in our childhoods. Y'all Gen Zers don't know how good y'all had. Because y'all parents, by the time it got to y'all, parents were like, maybe I should go get some help. But us Gen Xers especially, baby, being a Gen X person, like being the child of a baby boomer, is not for the weak. I don't know what was going on in that generation and the generation before that. So we want things to be better for the generations coming up behind us. And if you don't, what you don't learn from, you're bound to repeat. So even though we're making things better for these generations that are coming up, it's good to talk about what we've overcome, to share those stories, to not be what happens in this house stays in this house, right? People need to be aware, like the kids and their kids, we need to keep written records of this stuff and say, this is how this family has evolved over time. And this stuff back here that was really messed up, these are the steps that we've taken to make sure that these demons, these generational curses, end back there and don't keep getting perpetuated or skipping forward into the next generations. Okay? So your healing is not just for you. It's never just for you. It's for the people whose lives God has called you to impact. It's for your children. It's for their children. It's for their children's children. There are so many reasons for you to do this work. You are in the fight of your life and the fight of the lives of others around you as well. So I hope that this has been a very impactful series for you. I want you guys to go and share this everywhere. Share the YouTube videos, share the reels, because these are discussions that need to be had and had and had over and over again. There's some resources that I've been reading in my own personal journey that I would love to recommend. One of them is the Boundaries book by John Townsend, Dr. John Townsend and Henry Cloud. They are the boundaries champions. I have been reading their books since my undergrad college days, and I won't tell y'all how many years ago that's been. But they have some amazing books, and I constantly refer back to them. But their latest book is just simply called Boundaries, I believe. I can't remember the subtitle, but I'll drop the slide in for you so you can go and get that book. We did a whole life group on the Boundaries book. Another book is entitled The No Contact Guide for Christians. You guys, I found this book on Amazon, and it was especially helpful to my husband and I a couple of years ago. It is by Sister Renee Patelli. How to End Your Relationships with Narcissistic, Psychopathic, and Abusive Family and Friends and Still Be a Good Christian. I love that she put that in the title, because y'all know one of the top things that good old religious Christian narcissists will tell you is that if you don't do everything exactly the way they say and do, you're not being a good Christian. If you don't come over here and put up with my abuse on a loop and stop calling me out on my behavior, that means you're not a good Christian. A good Christian would just, oh, that's in the past. Yeah, I didn't apologize for it, and I have no intention on accepting any wrongdoing, but that's okay. If you're a real Christian, you'll just give me unlimited access to your life. This book right here, Sister Renee breaks it down, you guys. And spoiler alert, there is a part in this book where she reveals that Renee is not even her born name. She had a whole other name. And when she severed her relationship with those toxic family members, she changed her name she legally changed her name in order to symbolize a rebirth of who she was going to be going forward. If you know anything about names, the name Renee literally means reborn. Now, y'all don't have to go to that extent. Y'all might be like, that's a little much. I like my name. I'm not finna go through all that legal name change stuff. But that is really powerful to me, that the fact that you don't have to be what someone else called you. That's a whole message. You don't have to be what someone else called you. So we got The Christian's Guide to No Contact by Sister Renee Patelli. We've got the Boundaries book by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. Oh, and this is a great book that came out not this summer, a couple of months ago. Spare. Have you guys read Spare by Prince Harry? That book, y'all, I got that book when I was on a trip. I got that book in the airport bookstore. And by the time I landed at my destination, I had read 3/4 of the book. When I tell you that book is a page turner, and you just watch the different stages that he goes through for being, this narcissistic abuse. And it was years and years and years before Megan, child. He don't even get to her. By the time he get to her, it's like over 3/4 of the book by the time he gets to when she comes into the picture. So that goes to show for those people who just want to believe everything was perfect until Megan came along. Child, them issues were already there. So it's a great book if you just want to read a nonfiction book, kind of autobiography by someone who has walked the walk and is still walking the walk on a grander scale because he's got riches and fame to go with it. So it's not like he can do this personal journey privately. We're seeing it in the public eye. So those are 3 books that I feel are great to read. I have a lot more that I'll share with you as well. That is all I have. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Keep living victoriously. Bye, everybody.